You're listening to the Eclectrocasts podcast. This is podcast number 35. In this installment of Eclectrocasts, we sat down with West Coast musician Lola La Showgirl. Over the past few years, Lola has released a series of EPs and LPs featuring exotic melodies and tonalities, trip-hop beats, and compelling atmospheres. You can find her music on Bandcamp. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Eclectrocasts. This is Jeff. And I'm with Case. Hi, Case.
Howdy.
Case, you have something on your T-shirt that says 1978 Math Club.
Yep.
Hell's Angles Math Club.
Yeah, and under it says United in the Vision.
Ah, gotcha. Yes.
I wear this when I do professional development.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I wish you all could see Case's T-shirt, but you can't until we do this via video, maybe someday in 2025. But regardless, we are here with Lola La Showgirl, one of the great musicians of the West Coast, and we have followed her on Twitter for quite a long time, and we're happy to finally have her here. Hello, Lola. How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me, both of you, on the show. Thank you.
Great.
Excited.
How is now? I have to talk about this because, not to sound too stupid, but Johnny Carson would always, not always, but frequently talk about the weather in Los Angeles in his opening monologue. So I have to ask you about the weather in Los Angeles now.
It's almost embarrassing. It is such a beautiful day. It is so gorgeous. I mean, literally, you could either decide to go swimming or you could decide to sit out, and it's just a perfect day.
No smog?
I mean, it's perfect weather.
No smog?
Actually, we've had some rain, so that washes away some of the rain, the smog. We're good. So
excellent.
it's a beautiful day. Sorry,
well,
guys.
with all these electric cars, right, in Los Angeles, it must be an improvement.
Yeah, it has been. Since whenever they started the cap, putting the cap on the emissions. Yeah, it's been beautiful. I've seen some really bad days. I'm born and raised in California, but I've seen some days where it's just but yeah, it's pretty nice. So
yeah, electric charge stations are popping up all over New York.
Yep.
See them everywhere now.
Is that for your iPad?
Yeah. Nice.
You know what? You're going to have to work on a converter there.
All right.
Okay. That's your
I'll
$1 million
best.
idea. I'm not telling you mine. All right. So, Lola, I want you to tell everybody who's listening where they can find your music, and do you have any websites? Do you have you still have MySpace, right?
Oh, yeah, I still have a MySpace, believe it or not, and that's how I unfortunately picked up my name. But I do have, I'm on SoundCloud, but mostly Bandcamp is where I'm like, please go see me there if you want to really get into my music. The SoundCloud that I have is mostly for remixes and some experiments that I'm working on and just want to get some feedback. My official website is a Tumblr page at Lola La Showgirl Tumblr.
I love your Tumblr page. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Keys. I really, I had a regular website and I was just, it just felt like it was just so cold, and with this whole social media thing, that how we all connect and find out more about each other personally, I just felt like this doesn't make any sense to have this website that makes me this person that I'm really actually not. So yeah.
That's very interesting.
All right. So we'll make sure to list all your social media and where people can go and get your amazing albums, in the website and on YouTube when we publish the podcast there. So we do have a listener question.
Oh, cool.
Every time we invite listeners, and I'd like to remind everybody who is listening that you can send us questions. And we got one question from one of your fans, and her name is Phoebe, and she met you in Anaheim at the Art Walk, where you worked with Space Circus. You're going to have to talk to us about that. Just the name Space Circus provokes all kinds of ideas.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like Cirque du Soleil, in space, I guess. But it was a couple of summers ago, and she saw you live, and she loved your set, and she was wondering which producers are you inspired by, and where do you publish your recorded live sets? Do you record your live sets?
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm really impressed that someone else other than my family didn't send a question in. So that's really cool. Okay. So the question was,
so which producers are you inspired by?
Which producers and my live sets. I'll go to the live sets real quick. I haven't recorded my live sets. I record my live sets, but I haven't put them out anywhere. It's only because when I play out, I kind of tend to stick to the same type, depending on what venue it is. I tend to stick to the same
like a core
set. So yeah, like a core set. And so I didn't want to, kind of expose that and have people go, yeah, this song again. So yeah. But now that I'm working in a different way and I'm trying to do different things, I will probably record put my recorded live sets out. So that's one. And the other one about producers, if we are talking about traditional moneyed producers, the ones who can go in and make money, I have a short list of that. But my favorite producers are obviously ones that I've either worked with or I know or I've listened to their music, and that's a huge long list. But the short list for traditional recording studio producers would probably be Ian Stanley, who did some stuff for Tori Amos on Little Earthquakes. And then I really do like Raphael Sadiq, who did Solange Knowles, a lot of her songs on Seat at the Table. And then Sonia Pottinger. She's a Jamaican. She produced a lot of reggae albums, and she's the only one of them that is not a musician herself.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really interesting because she and her husband started it, but then they got a divorce and she needed money, and so she started her own recording studio and started producing albums, and she did Judy Mowat, and so she made this huge contribution to the Jamaican scene. And so I love her. She's passed, but I love her. And then, of course, Four Non-Blondes chick, Linda Perry. Yeah, she's someone I really admire as a producer as well. So
okay,
yeah,
awesome. Well,
I hope Phoebe's happy with your answers. I know we are.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about Space Circus, because just the name is intriguing, and it was a collaborative, right? So you were involved with that?
Yeah, Space Circus started off as a collective of just it's so funny because we were about 7 of us as producers, musicians, electronic musicians. It's an electronic music collective, and none of us had a through line of music. I mean, we had the ambient Moog synth guy, doing his thing. That was Wingo. Josh Spoon does a lot of heavy bass and beat type stuff at the time. Hiko is very, very, anyway. We were all so very different and very vast in our musical tastes, but we came together and we would do a night at Grand Star Jazz Club primarily, and it was fun working with them. We haven't really done anything lately.
So was this a funded project, or was this sort of like just came about spontaneously?
Yeah, it just came about. Yeah, let's go play out. Basically,
nice.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and it was a great lesson and a lot of fun. So
I'm moving to California. None of that stuff happens over here. Really?
Somebody
bring a laptop and put some blue light on and get some guy who looks like a truck driver to play bass, and that's it. But they don't do anything like what Lola's talking about.
You know, you guys, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like anything, but if you are in anywhere, you should be doing this. You should be trying to get together all of your friends who make a lot electronic music and do this, because I think it requires, it's part of our job to do that and let people know, hey, this is very worthy music, and we should be supporting each other. Especially, there's somebody we met, I think through you guys. I met through you guys on Twitter. I hope I pronounce his name right. Halcyon.
Halcyon.
Yes. He's doing that now, and it's just so exciting to see him do that in his hometown. And I think he's from Tennessee, but he's doing that a lot more now, and I'm just excited by that, because
that's good.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. So
yeah. We've been talking on and off with some of our close Twitter friends about trying to play together, through the internet. And, we still have a ways to go to get good connections to not have that enormous amount
latency.
of
Latency is a problem.
That live streaming.
So that, because, like many of us, and I assume like yourself, we have families, we have full-time jobs. So to just go out and play is not all that easy, but there are moments that you can create with like-minded people from all over the world. It's pretty exciting, So I mean, it's a big reason why we do Eclectrocasts. But
absolutely.
So you sent us a track. I think it was Shadow, which comes from your album
Delicate.
Yes, with the it has a rose on the.
I have fallen asleep to that record so many times.
Okay. Thank you.
But you say that much of that music came out of that Space Circus project.
Yeah, that was during the time, and very quickly, I just want to get back to. I'm not trying to say like everybody must go out and start a collective, but a collective is a really great way. Tying this into the album Delicate and Shadow and things of that nature. This song, it was during that time where it's fun to be exposed to other musicians' sounds, and you don't try to take what they're doing, but you are influenced by that, and then
it gives you ideas.
Yeah, it gives you ideas, and and then this album I had a chance to kind of play out in a bigger room other than my studio, and it taught me a lot of stuff about just sound and how to bounce one thing from one speaker to another and things like that. So
So in Shadow, you use some nice glitchiness and there's a lot of reversed bits in it. And I found like, it doesn't always happen, but I found I got sucked into the song. I was like drawn in. It's a really interesting experience. And so it seems like there's two themes in your music, and I call them spaces and places. So you place your music, you seem to think very carefully about where you place. So left to right, up and down, back and front, right? So the three-dimensional space, and then where you place the music, and then some music is drier, and other music is more reverb. So I call it spaces and places. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I guess kind of that whole idea of when you go into a club, or the club that we played at Space where we did Space Circus was the Grand Star Jazz Club, and they don't have the top of the line sound system, but like I said, it was a good time to learn how to use my equipment that I perform with, and how to bounce different sounds from different speakers, and use the bass subwoofer and really try and play with that, only because I was hearing other people and I went, oh, okay. And it's like, you can kind of, in your own, when I was recording, I'd do panning and things like that. But there was other things where I was really trying to look forward to throwing in different elements that I heard other people doing. I perform with a tractor, and I don't know if we'll get into this later or not, but there's something so beautiful about that piece of equipment because the effects on it are so incredible, and there's so much more tactile than what we can get in just the DAW. So it was learning how to do that and bring that out that I kind of had the opportunity to work with that.
So another element that, and I'm not sure if you do this consciously, but I think you do, because you're talking about how you use the bass, how you start to say, hey, a woofer can really bring out that emotional deep sound. So another way you spread your image is through separating frequencies. So and I learned this from Jeff, to be honest with you. I'm not a trained musician, but Jeff is. And I just, when I started recording in a DAW, every time it got just like a bunch of mud, right? Because I just piled up everything in the same frequency range. Yeah, go ahead, talk, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I did exactly the same. Yeah. It just ended up so muddy. It ended up so like sludge that you're trying to get through. And that's the disappointment. Unfortunately, I do have music released online that has all that muddiness and grossness.
We all do.
But at the same time, it's just exactly that, using the different frequencies and really trying to work that out and bring out those beautiful, beautiful little tiny notes that are in there that you just want to coax out and come on, baby. But
it's like you're cooking. It's like you're cooking.
Yeah.
You have to have that flavor peek through, and in order for that flavor to peek through, there can't be other frequencies that are masking it.
Exactly.
And EQ is everything. It really is. EQ is absolutely everything.
It really is. And I can't tell you how many times I would get busted for that. I mean, I would get so like, there was a sound guy, I'd be like, oh my God, So it is all about the EQ and all about trying not to clip and doing those things. Yeah. So, but what I would love is, I can't really do it here without the cops being called on me, but that just when you start to feel the floor rumble underneath you and it just kind of shakes up through your body, it's just amazing. I just love that feeling. So yeah.
Hey, why don't we take a listen to Shadow, Jeff?
Yeah. I think everybody who's listening should go out and buy Lola's album Delicate, because it is a masterpiece. And it's that's the first thing I ever heard from Lola, and I was like, all right, okay, I'm gonna lock myself up in my studio for like a year and try to come up with something close to this. But anyway, this album is called Delicate, and we're hearing the track on Eclectrocasts called Shadow. one of the things that I really love about your music, especially Shadow and anything else on Delicate, and it's actually you hear it pop up in most of your catalog also, but is it you have an expert command over percussion programming. And are you playing the tractor live when you do that, or are you just firing samples, or are you programming MIDI notes to how do you go about putting a percussion arrangement together? Because I need to learn this.
No, it's all of that. But I start with my percussion every time. And I know that sounds really strange, but that's how I build from. Either I'm drawing them in on MIDI, or I'll take a sample. I use a machine to do most of my drums. And sometimes I will use samples. Sometimes I'll find different places and play with that, like battery from Native Instruments. Cool. I'll take that and just sitting with them and kind of trying to make them my friend. That's what I do. So it's a little bit of all of that though. But yeah. But
how do you come up? How do you visualize what you want to do with a percussion track? Do you see things in a linear fashion where you might even sit down with a piece of paper and say, okay, I have these few rhythms and I want to build them this way and add this and that? Or is it something, what do you see in your head when you
what do you feel in your heart?
Okay, this is some people would definitely disagree with me. What I do is I always start off with the kick, the bass, and then I try to and then if I get stuck, then I'll go back and go, okay, so I like this drum from here, I like this thing, and I'll listen to the full complete thing, and then I go, okay, so I'll strip everything down. I don't like claps, I don't like a lot of hi-hats, and you might hear that in my I hate shakers, I hate claps. I cannot, it's just, those things drive me nuts. So I always take that out. I try not to work with those as much as possible. It's mostly Tom's bass, the bass kick drum, and some hi-hats that are tweaked, a little bit of the snares. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly.
There are no wrong answers.
I think you go, well, yeah, really.
So
no, but
I don't know if I'm giving you that answer, but
when I hear one of your percussion tracks, and this is true of a lot of glitch and down tempo musicians, I think to myself, how did they think of this? You know what I mean? It's like, how did you come up with this that stutter, that brrr, how come that sounds 3 different pitches at different odd intervals, and how did you think to put that in there? I mean, it's composing. It's obviously it's really composing.
And filters and delay. And, and pitching. And I mean, I don't know if that's what I do. There's so many people that, I wish I was really, really good at just tapping out a drum beat. I need a lot of help. And sometimes I'll turn to whatever I can to get that to work for me. But I'm more passionate about my drums than just about anything. I shouldn't be like that, but
why not? It made an impact on me and probably other people who listen.
But what I hear from you is that it also needs to feel right to you, so that you go more on feeling than on preconceived notion.
Yeah, well, that's funny. Yeah, because it is about feeling. Because if I had preconceived notions, and I've tried to do this before, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this in this type of scale, or like a Lydian scale or something like that. I can't do it, and I can't. I end up hitting a brick wall, and so I have trouble working past that. Right. So I get stuck, and I end up having a half a track. Right. Yeah. But that's when I might take my drum track, throw that in. Depending on what system you use, throw that into Ultra Beat in Logic and mess with it through their instrument settings. Right. So, that's something as well. You can turn any kind of, you can start to sample, even just bits that I can't get and turn it around. So
I've made entire drum sets out of, sounds that I recorded. So, somebody says 7, right? The word 7, and then just sa is a nice hi-hat, isn't it? right?
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
She doesn't like hi-hats, though.
No, but
Well, no,
I'm just saying,
I could,
right?
I might like them after this.
And then
Let me try that.
Now, if you can say that low and you can frequency, you can get a nice sort of a tom or so. But to get back to sort of this idea of creating a rhythm is very essential to your work, because there's not only rhythm that you create through your drum set, how you apply your drums, but also in the repetition of lines, and the building of layers, and so you do that very crafty. And in the 7-pointed one, the track called the 7-pointed one, you have to explain to us a little bit where that comes from, because a lot of people will think like of deer antlers, like when they hear points.
Yeah.
But there is a really cool bouncing ping pong. So it's a very quick ping pong that is almost like a stutter ping pong kind of a delay, and it's just delicious. I love it.
Oh, wow. Okay. And this is off of, it's not titled anything, but that's off of my last album, which was about the goddess Seshat.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, a lot of people are like, how do you say that name? How do you say that goddess's name? But I don't know. The ping pong is probably a filtered delay somewhere. So, I mean, I kind of have my old, I don't do the same thing, but I do have things that I kind of
use
stick
a lot
with.
of the same tools to do similar things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
But we all have that,
Exactly.
right? I like rotation.
I do, too.
I like the rotation, plugins.
Yeah.
I love that.
I have my
Yeah.
groove delay in Studio One. I use it on every track. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is that okay? I was going to ask you about the thing I just heard from you on SoundCloud. The thing
Foie Gras? Foie Gras?
Yes, foie gras. Yes, that was beautiful. Both of your stuff. I'm sitting here like, wow, this is amazing. These guys are really cool. They want to ask me a question.
Ask us a question. Go ahead.
I think this interview is over. She just threw down the gauntlet. That's it.
Lovely.
I'm
lovely.
sorry, but yeah,
No, that's cool. No, talk about 7-pointed one in Seshat and how that all came about for you, Lola.
This album came about because I fell down one of those rabbit holes looking for something. And what drew me to this goddess was that she was an actual person. And she wasn't, it was during a time where I was like, okay, what is this, femininity and looks, and am I this, am I that, am I not, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, throwing that aside, she actually did real things, and she wasn't someone who had to be noticed for her beauty or her looks, but she was someone who, was a scribe and filled libraries. And the song 7-Pointed One is could be about antlers, but it was possibly, from what I've read and did some research on, was that she was a big fan of hemp or marijuana. So so she, every time you see her, she's depicted with, in certain hieroglyphics, she's depicted with this plant leaf over her head. And so, and it wasn't anything...
Which is on your cover.
Yes,
right?
yeah, which is on the cover that was done by...
I'm looking at it right now, and there's like it looks like a 7-pointed star, but it has a little stick coming out of her head.
Yeah, and that's exactly what... there's a couple... ancient ruins in Egypt. There's exactly what she looks like. My friend did the artwork. Lawrence Lindell did the artwork for that album cover. But
Lovely.
yeah. It was nice to do an album that I could fall into a concept and really kind of try to research as much as possible. I'm no scholar. I'm no Egyptian scholar. I don't know. All kinds of things, but I learned a little, ancient Egyptian, and that's what you hear, in that the vocals are me. I learned some ancient Egyptian,
Oh.
and then I chopped it up through a sequencer. So because I went,
There you go.
I was like, oh hells no, I cannot do. I mean, it sounded, I was stumbling and I didn't know. It didn't sound as good as the person trying to teach me how to say these
I
things.
thought it had a very nice effect on the track. It was,
Absolutely,
it's a little quirky, because it's, I mean, you can tell it's manipulated. But it draws the immediate attention. You're trying to really make out what is being said.
Yeah, and it plays down to just gibberish, but that's okay. I mean, because then I realized it was, if you're doing something about an Egyptian goddess, you really do have to go, okay, there's got to be some sort of, creative there's got to be some sort of creative interpretation in here. I can't take it too seriously. I'm not I don't have a PhD in
Egyptology,
ancient
however
Egypt.
you say that.
yeah
Egyptology, thank you.
yeah
Lola, that really comes through with the exotic tonality in that track. Did you plan that? Did you want to go for some sort of clusters of notes that sounded non-Western?
No.
It just came about.
It came about. It came about, but I was listening to a lot of Middle Eastern and Egyptian music at the time, so I might have been, influenced by that. So, yeah.
But a chapter 4, a song we're going to listen to later, that has distinct Mid-Eastern and Eastern scale in there. So we'll talk about that there, when we get to chapter 4, because there was somewhat of a concept album too, right? The Ask the Dust album, which I believe you offering as a free download on SoundCloud, on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it with relish, I have to say. I'm Dutch. Anything that is free is, I'll take it. If I can use it, fine. If I can't use it, I'll have it,
Okay.
But I wanted to go back to the 7-pointed one. I listen to a lot of your music, and most of it sort of, you sort of gradually draw somebody into the tune. There's a build up and then there's a build down, right? That sort of seems to happen a lot. But the 7-pointed one, bam, it's right in your face, and bam, it is done. It just begins abruptly. So the whole full, the whole full arrangement is there right away, and it also stops very abruptly at the end. And I find it very interesting. I personally struggle a lot with the beginning and ending of songs or tracks. I find that the most difficult thing about composition is how to begin and how to end. So can you talk a little bit about your choices for this track and how you started and how you ended it, and maybe how you approach that in general?
I think this was when I was working on this particular track. I started really thinking about her as a person, and what her life must have been like as a young woman, and having to constantly be on call for these pharaohs and kings. And I know this is not, it's more of a imaginative thing in regards to the composition, but I really just saw it as constantly on call, constantly, being pulled here, constantly being pulled there. And so I kind of just took that from that. And then in the way that I felt like she was, did she fall in love? Did she have someone that she had a crush on? Was she, dreaming about somebody that she couldn't spend any time with? So, that kind of thing, that's where all the little voices and stuff comes in. So, and it just, it was more for me to start, because I have the same thing. I do the same thing when it comes to intros and outros, and how do I work with that? And how do I, yeah.
Right.
So that,
yeah, because it can become a little trite, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay, let's fade it
yeah.
out somewhere, right? And and then it's kind of like you don't know how to tell a story, right? So what you're saying is, you're using these elements to tell a story, right? And so now when I listen to it, it'll make so much sense to me.
Sorry,
knowing the story. No, I mean, it didn't. No. It doesn't matter that how you begin. So when I listen to your music, it doesn't matter that I know, your motivations, because I will add my own. So that's not a problem. I don't think that ever is a problem. But now that I know this, I think it will be really interesting. So let's listen to it. Now that I think it would be really good for everybody to sort of hear the effect of it. Don't you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So
let's
Lola
go.
La Showgirl is our guest here on Eclectrocasts, and I think this is as close as anything you have to a self-titled EP.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. From her
Yes, this is.
self-titled EP, and this one just came out last year, right? I remember getting it like last summer.
Yeah, last summer.
Yeah, last summer. This is called The Seven-Pointed One here on Eclectrocasts.
So talking about, before we left for listening to this amazing track, Jeff was talking about that this was from your most recent album. What is in store? What kind of projects are you involved in? You have been putting out an album or an EP almost every year since 2012, on Bandcamp at least. Maybe you've published work before, but I'm unaware of that. So, if the trend continues, we should be seeing something from you in 2017.
Yeah, hopefully. The year that I didn't get to do an album taught me something really great, and that was that I don't have to. So
Awesome.
So if it comes, then it comes. If I'm struggling with it, then I just don't want to beat the baby and say, come on, you've got to come. So I'm working on something now of my own, and so we'll see if that comes to fruition. But there's a couple of collaborations that I'm working on, and that just takes forever because everybody's busy, everybody has a job, everybody has something. So that's hopefully something in 2017. So
well, you have a video out that is a collaboration with a guitar player, I think.
Yes, El Chivo, Biosphere Bifurcation. So yeah.
Very nice music. So is that, do you hope that to develop that into a publishable project?
We do hope to. He's a great guitarist, and he loves. I hope that I can do some justice in what we're doing. So hopefully we can turn something into a small EP. And we've been working together for a little bit on this, so we'll see what happens with that. And
right,
yeah,
great. But we will be the first ones to know when something is coming out, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
good.
yeah, of course. Definitely.
We want to be in the loop,
Oh yeah. Well, we follow each other on Twitter, so
Regarding your track Chapter 4, Lola, that seems to me that it's almost like a collage. I see it as a collage. It's a sound collage. And it's a collage where you will take something exotic and put something very modern. So, you'll hear this jumble of melody, right? And then the trip hop drums come in, and that kind of brings it almost brings, I don't know, something Eastern and Western together, but it brings something ancient and modern together too. Which is something that I found very effective. Do you see sound as tools, or I don't want to say fodder, but as sound as colors for a collage? Do you see something visual when you put a lot of these sounds together?
Well, this was about that Ask the Dusk EP.
Ask the Dusk. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so with this, it was very visual and I do see something. I did see something in that. But getting to that, the Middle Eastern type sound, it wasn't quite. I don't know it wasn't planned out to a T, but there's something that I read during that time about microtonal beats and in microtonal sound, in electronic music and Middle Eastern music, and that being so closely related to each other. So I was trying to do something with that, but as with anything, I was, locked away in my room for years playing guitar and singing. And then when I finally got a DAW and I finally started I was like, oh my God, the whole world's opened up to me. So so that's how come I will do whatever I can because I love sound. So it's sometimes it's fodder, sometimes it's the whole entire world. So
no, I think I agree. And what's the connection with the Ask the Dusk EP and John Fante's novel?
Well, I was looking for something to write music, and I had read this novel, and it was the loneliest thing I could ever read, I think. This novel is so lonely, but not only that, this novel was filled with smells. And it really was something that I had never experienced before reading. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do a little EP with this. And so chapter 4 is when the novel really picks up. And, it's this guy who both falls in love and hates this woman simultaneously. Anyway, and so so this is the thing. And so, but he finds her exotic, and then he finds her disgusting, and and so, so it was that I started from there, and then went with that. So,
what appealed to me, something I brought up earlier is this idea of creating an ending, and most of the song, I feel like I'm in a caravan, there's belly dances around, or, I feel like I am right in the middle of the scene that you're painting with your music. And then, whoop, all of a sudden, I'm in a different space. And I felt like all of a sudden I was floating high above the scene, and I was sort of reflecting and looking down on it. That sort of dreamy ending, because all the rhythm is gone, and it's just like a sort of a pad or whatever you use there. So in terms of the relationship with the novel, what are you depicting with that ending, that last 30 seconds or however long it lasts?
It's really about their relationship in this book and how it plays out. And that's really what that is. Because it is left so open-ended, but at the same time, it does end. So, that's what I was trying to.
So there's sort of a stepping away, right? You
them.
sort of become an observer rather than a participant.
Yeah, and which is what happens when these two come together and then split apart as well. So
Really nice.
So
I think
should we take a listen?
This is my favorite track. I love this track.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. Now, those of you who I know you're going to go out there and support Lola La Showgirl by buying some of her music, but this one is free. The Ask the Dusk EP is free, Ask the Dust. And that EP houses the track we're going to hear now. This is called Chapter 4 on Eclectrocasts.
you sent us one other track, Eden in Central Park. And is this the Central Park in New York City?
Yes, this is the Central Park in New York City. So
I wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about how you see yourself as a person, as an artist. And, I followed you on Twitter. You're not afraid to speak your mind about the role of women in society. So I wanted to ask you to speak a little bit about how you see yourself as a person in the world and as an artist in the world, and what the relationship between the two is. And then maybe, link that to how you present yourself, particularly like I saw a couple of videos on YouTube where you have some sort of a very, you exude a sense of comfort with yourself, of peace with yourself, a sense of serenity. And also, I saw one video where there's a lot of, you once in a while, the words that you're singing, you come back in, and then, but then it's a lot of like, glitchy, face shots. So, if you want to talk about that, fine, but it's not necessary. But I really love to hear from you how you see yourself as a person in the world, and how you see yourself as an artist in the world, and how those two play together.
It's okay. It's funny because my sister and I, my sister's a writer, so we talk about this quite a bit. I think it's always been part of my training to always have a point of view. And, in art, we can only bring ourselves to the table, I think, and where we stand in it. So it's not that I think that, I don't know what, being a female and doing electronic music. Yeah, that's great. My gender is not, doesn't require you to like my music or hate my music. And that's the way I honestly feel about anyone's gender. But I do know where I come from and what if it wasn't such a big deal to take away, rights of, women's health issues, I wouldn't say anything about it. If it was that I felt like I was represented in a decision-making process when it comes to women's bodies or things of that nature, I wouldn't say anything. But because I don't feel like that, I'm quick to make sure that I will let people know where I stand and where I come from. And you don't have to agree with me. It's just the way how I feel, that I think is important. But it's funny because my sister and I we were talking, and maybe it's where I'm at right now, but what makes artists to me so interesting is some of the hurdles that they have to come through and they have to go through. The person that you had on last time, Huge Shark, when she was talking about her illness that she has to work through to do things, that to me is that's like, I go, wow, that is really, that's incredible, because you have to actually work through something that life has given you. And so I feel like that is something that we don't embrace as artists enough. I mean, being parents as artists, what do you do when you go play out, and who's going to watch the kids, and, it's a free gig and you don't have any, you got to pay a babysitter, or it just, being an artist of a certain age, and you sit there and go, if Madonna's sitting there going, hey, nobody wants, is going to pay attention to me now. I'm like, holy crap, this is, one of the biggest earners in the business. And, now she's 50 and no one wants to pay attention to her. So and that's bullshit. Excuse my mouth. I'm sorry. But that's, we shouldn't be penalized for the things that we have to go through just because we are going through them. This is a natural thing. All of this is so natural to us, and we should be embracing our, natural states of where we are in life, particularly as artists. So yeah, that's
having, that said, everything that we just talked about. What does it mean to you to be a musician?
So what was the first time that you realized that music was a creative outlet for you? When did this begin?
Well, I trained professionally and gone to school for acting, and was a professional actress for a really long time. During that time, I was learning classical guitar, and it was so odd to me. I realized that I had to do the other thing that I had said I was going to do, because I told my family I was going to do this. But in the back of my mind, I had always loved music. And so I had some early success. I had some success early on that steered me into the theater and film. But when I was in between gigs and in between auditions, I would play guitar and write, and it just kind of coalesced into something else, I guess. It just happened. It changed. It's, it kind of said, here, why don't you just do this? And this is what you're going to do, because this makes you happy. And it's always made me happier, much, much happier than anything I've ever done.
Awesome. So it emerged out of you initially setting out on an acting career, and it is sort of in that environment that you sort of picked up the idea of making your own music?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Right.
That's
Interesting.
That's it.
So was music an important thing growing up in your family?
Music, yes. Music was always important in my family. And in a way that it wasn't like, go sit down and learn how to play this instrument. It wasn't that. It was always in the house, always on, always, and much to my dismay when my mom went through her Prince phase. And sorry, Mom, I love you. But I mean, when you're a teenager and you're going, oh my God, my mom's singing this song and I like the song and, And so, it was just, but, it was always a part of our life, and, a guitar sitting in the corner that, we could all pick up or someone break or whatever. So, it was just, that's what you
were infected early.
Yeah. Infected early, but like a good zombie, I'm still here. So yeah. Sorry.
Lola, was Daydreams in Silence your first album?
That was the first one that I actually released out.
The first one that you released.
That's the first one I was like, okay, maybe I'll put this one out. Yeah, that was the first one.
And Eden in Central Park, which is a song we're going to hear in just a moment, is from that album. And one of the things, I mean, there's so many great things about it, but one of the things that really struck me about it was that electric piano part that you can hear in the beginning, and it kind of fades as part of the landscape in the middle, and then it comes back as a more prominent force in the end. And it's so polyrhythmic, it's almost in a different time signature. And I'm like, all right, this woman is like, she's got it. Playing two time signatures simultaneously is like, that's it. That's hip for me. So I really enjoyed that. But do you think of music polyrhythmically like that?
Polyrhythms are important, and it's hard to, when you rely on just your ear to play those out, it's hard to kind of match those up in a way, from what I know of what I'm supposed to do when working with that. But it's so interesting, and it's so exciting to have that. I don't tend to do that all the time. I know that you do that a lot, Jeff, but I'm still working on some of that stuff.
I like to use everyday objects. Like, I recorded a washer and dryer in my sister's closet, and it was not just a polyrhythm, but it was also a developing rhythm that had its own sequence. And so then I played a straight drum beat on that, and so then it deviates, but then at some point it resolves, because it resolves rhythmically, because the rhythms come back together, right? Which is kind of a common denominator of two fractions, isn't it? Really?
Yes, exactly. And then you need to, that was my first album. So I think, not my first album, but my first one that I released. I've kind of learned a little bit more about how I hear certain sounds now, and how I try to match certain things up. That was all just, I don't think the polyrhythmic essence was what I was truly going for, but I liked how it sounded at the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flavor. It really is a rhythmic flavor.
yeah.
Yeah. So Eden is, a mythological, biblical sort of paradise, and Eden in Central Park. What were you going for there? What about Central Park made it so
serene,
idyllic?
Yeah.
It was.
And was there a tree with a
was,
snake and an apple?
He turned out to be later,
Okay.
I'll tell you. Yeah, it was a day that I remembered from. This whole album was just based on certain things that have happened. So yeah, it was a beautiful day, and I was just trying to play into what that was. Everything, that park is so gorgeous and so beautiful, and you guys are so lucky to be able to stop and see it when you can, at a probably a more regular basis than I will ever be. But it was something that I was moved by every single tree and every single leaf, and I don't know, was I in love? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. So yeah.
So that's.
So did you see the park as possibility? Did you see it as?
Yeah.
As, anything can happen, and you're so excited about the fact that anything can happen.
Yeah. That's how that day was anyway. So, yeah.
So you invite Case and me over to your house, hang out, listen to music. What do you play?
You'll never get rid of us.
Gosh, there's a ton of stuff. Thelonious Monk.
Oh, no,
not
come
familiar.
on. Oh, come
For
on.
my jazz heads. Come on.
Yeah.
Julius Eastman. Have you guys?
No, who's that?
He's a post-modern minimalist composer, and he's amazing. And he's amazing because he has the audacity to take things
Julius
a step
Eastman?
further. But I just discovered his music, and I'm really liking that.
writing that down.
Julius Eastman. Yeah, he's dead now, but he's and he was and he's he was used up and spit out, and people, but unfortunately that's what happens sometimes to great artists. But Julius Eastman is having this kind of resurgence, or he's been having it, and I still get kind of angry. I still kind of think, wow, are people supporting his family? Is anyone giving money to his estate? I mean, he died in squalor. He died at 49 years old, and they
Right.
used him up when he was like in his 20s, and they were like, yeah, this guy's great. And then, he started having personal problems and issues and things, and people were like, no. State of New York took his catalog. He couldn't make any
He was in
money.
debt.
And so now he's gone, but we have a little bit of his work.
All right. Well, hey, this was fun.
Yeah, you guys, this was fun. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Jeff, you got to smile for me just a little bit there. I'm like, oh my God, sorry. No, I'm like, I feel like, I hope I didn't bore you at all in any way. But you guys, no, I just want to say thank you both so very much. I have to reiterate from all the other interviews that you've done that you guys are really reaching out and starting this community, and
Thank you.
it's really it's so important, and I think it's really great that you're doing this. So I'm going to be continue to listen and support
Great.
and
Glad to have you in our
because
family.
I just admire.
Yes.
Yeah, I admire so much
Great,
what you're
thank
doing.
you.
So
We enjoy it
The
too.
respect is mutual, and this has just been incredible to just be face to face with you and to talk with you as a real person, and not just as a as somebody less than 140 characters and an occasional picture. So it's just delightful, and what a wonderful conversation. And from the East Coast to the West Coast,
Yeah.
and from the West Coast to the East Coast, and to the rest of the world. Thank you so much.
So we are going to ride out
Yeah.
on
Okay. Thank you,
Lola
guys.
La Showgirl's Eden in Central Park. This one's from her album Daydreams in Silence. You can get that at Bandcamp, and we're really happy to have spoken with her for the past hour. So thank you, Lola.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Case. See you later. Bye.
Thank you.